Hi, you guys. Welcome back to Meaningful Motivations with Tracy Erickson. And of course, if you are new to this channel, welcome. My name is Tracy Erickson, and this is video number 6 in the Evolution of Consciousness series. And this is actually going to be the final video in this series, at least for now. And in this episode, we are discussing unconditional love, or the 6th test of the brotherhood, love divine. And you're not going to want to miss it. So stay tuned. The Evolution of Consciousness series started with the root races, if you remember, from part 1. And so in part 1, we discussed the evolution of our consciousness from before we are ever even in this human form, and all the way up until we are in this human form, but acting from the will of God, similar to the way that Jesus or the Buddha does. And as we learned in the previous episode, in part 5 of the Evolution of Consciousness, the love divine was the 6th test of the brotherhood, the secret brotherhood, in which Jesus finally earned the 7th degree of the Christ. So it was this love divine degree that led to the final crowning of the Christ, that led to Jesus's enlightenment. Now, if you remember in the last episode, Jesus was sent during the 6th test to the Chamber of Harmony, or the Hall of Harmony, where he met a woman that lit him up from the inside. Suddenly, his thoughts would not leave the maiden. When she was no longer there, all he could think about was her voice, how beautiful she was. And all that he wanted was to run away with her. And Jesus even says that this test of his carnal love was the most difficult of them all. So in this final episode of Evolution of Consciousness, I've decided to dive a little deeper into this divine love degree and how to see past the carnal love and to really understand unconditional love, or love divine, because it's such an important part of your evolution of consciousness. You will not be able to evolve until you understand love. In his book, Power versus Force, Dr. David Hawkins illustrates that love calibrates at the level of 500 on the map of consciousness. And the level of enlightenment, which is the Christ or Buddha consciousness, that calibrates at 700 to 1000. So love is high up on the scale of consciousness, but it is still below the level of enlightenment. But it's very important to truly understand this level of consciousness. And it also states that the process of this level is revelation. So once you truly understand love in its truest, most pure form, that is when a revelation in your consciousness can take place. So if you remember when I was talking about these 7 levels of mind associated with the 7 tests of the secret brotherhood, I referred to the book, The Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ by Levi. And at that time when I was looking, I decided to randomly open the book to a page to see what kind of message the book had for me. And that is when I found this, which inspired part 5 of Evolution of Consciousness, if you remember. But the interesting thing that I want to add now in part 6 is that the page that it opened up to actually revealed the name of the maiden who was in the Hall of Harmony, who made Jesus struggle with carnal love and divine love for so long. And she made him understand this through that struggle, right? The section that the note card was placed in is a section of the book where Jesus is speaking to his mother. And while he's speaking to his mother, a maiden comes in. And it happens to be that lovely maiden from the Hall of Harmony. In the book, it says this: "And then he spoke a word aside unto the foreign masters and the 12. He said, Behold, men recognize their mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers here in the flesh. But when the veil is rent and men walk in the realms of soul, the tender lines of love that bind the groups of fleshly kin in families will fade away. Not that the love for anyone will be the less, but men will see in all the motherhood, the fatherhood, the sisterhood, the brotherhood of man. The family groups of earth will all be lost in universal love and fellowship divine." Then to the multitudes he said, "Whoever lives the life and does the will of God is a child of God and is my mother, father, sister, friend." And then he went aside to speak to mother and his other kindred in the flesh. But he saw more than these. The maiden who once thrilled his very soul with love, a love beyond the love of any fleshly kin, who was the sorest tempter in the temple Heliopolis besides the Nile, who sang for him the sacred psalms, was there. The recognition was of kindred souls. And Jesus said, "Behold, for God has brought to us a power men cannot comprehend, a power of purity and love, to make more light the burdens of the hour, to be a balm for wounded souls, to win the multitude to better ways by sacred song and holy life. Behold, for Miriam, who stood beside the sea and sang the song of victory when Moses led the way, will sing again. And all the choirs of heaven will join and sing the glad refrain, Peace, peace on earth, goodwill to men." And Miriam stood before the waiting throngs and sang again the songs of victory. And all the people said, Amen. I was like, how interesting. So I found, just through chance, the name of the maiden from the Hall of Harmony who helped Jesus to earn the degree of love divine. And her name was Miriam. So, of course, I looked it up. According to Google, the meaning of the name Miriam is wished for child. Miriam is a girl's name of Hebrew origin, as it means wished for child. Miriam offers you a heartfelt way to express your loving devotion to your new arrival. Miriam is an old form of Mary, allowing you to call baby after a family member from previous generations. And it also states, what does Miriam name mean in the Bible? Is drop of the sea, bitter. The name Miriam is girl's name of Hebrew origin, meaning drop of the sea, bitter, or beloved. So I found this very interesting that while Jesus was speaking to his mother and his 12 apostles about the fact that once we are taken away from this physical world, this physical vehicle, this conscious ego, once that veil is removed and we're on the other side, we can actually recognize people in our lives not by the flesh, so not by who is our family here on earth, but we see them for who they really are as a soul. And I found it interesting that at that time, while he's speaking about these earthly relationships and how they could change once the veil is removed, then Miriam shows up. So when I looked it up and it said that Miriam can mean bitter or beloved, I found that to be quite interesting as well. So that is the thing about love, right? So love is like a spectrum that has hate on one end and absolute unconditional love on the other. Similar to that love Jesus spoke of once the veil has been removed. And you can think like God, very much in this, it's a whole different perspective and a whole different space than that lower perception of love, which is, I love these people because they're part of my family here, or, I love this person, but I don't love that person. I hate this person, but I love that person. So the true love divine, the true unconditional love can see beyond this earthly veil of perception that is basically your lower ego. And it can see that we are all connected. We are all one. So even from that perception of love divine, you can understand that bitterness is actually the same as love, because it's like a spectrum of emotion. So the more that we can truly understand love, but from this divine perspective, then the more that we will see that we are all connected. You're not only connected with people who you think you love through your ego or through your identification with your lower self. We actually are all one and all come from the same creator source, but maybe not in the flesh. We come from the same creator source from the soul's perspective. And another side note is that the numerology for the name Miriam actually digits down to the number 9. And the number 9 is all about completion. And it's like a spiritual completion. So once we can truly understand that bitterness and love are all connected, once you remove the veil, then the sooner we can complete this lesson and move on to the next stage of our evolution. Remember, in the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ, it said, "Behold, for Miriam who stood beside the sea and sang the song of victory when Moses led the way, will sing again." So I believe that what Jesus is saying there is that it was this love, this harmony and love that we create within ourselves that can free us from the enslavement of this world. So it is the divine love and truly understanding that divine love that can help us to break the chains of our ego and to remove ourselves from those lower ways of being. Let me also attempt to explain this using tarot, because I love the tarot and it works for me. So here we are. We're on part 6 of Evolution of Consciousness, talking about love divine. And love divine was the 6th test of the brotherhood, right? We also know that the number of man is 666. And it also states that 666 is the number of the beast. So this is interesting, right? To explain this love divine using tarot, I'm going to refer to these 2 cards. The Lovers, which is number 6, as you can see, and the Devil, which is number 15, which digits down to 6, because 1 plus 5 is 6. So numerologically speaking, how do you say that? When you're speaking in terms of numerology, the Lovers is a 6, but so is the Devil, because when referring to numerology, you always have to digit it down. So add the digits together until you reach a single digit. So on both spectrums of this, you see 3 figures. So in the Lovers card, you see the man, the woman, and the angelic being. And in the Devil, you see the man, the woman, and the devil. So it's kind of like the name Miriam when you think about it, because it can mean bitter or beloved. So it all depends on where you're putting your consciousness, right? So if all of the figures in each of these images are representing aspects of yourself, okay, then that can help explain as well. So when you're on the more egoic side of love, it's very much more connected to the devil. This is the carnal love, the love that consumed Jesus like a fire within him after he met Miriam in the Hall of Harmony. He was struggling and he was losing his faith in God and his mission, all because he was becoming consumed by this lustful form of love. And that could be represented by the devil card. Because as you can see here, the man is looking to the woman and they're both chained to the devil. Okay? Then Jesus finally figured it out, and he realized the divine love that he is here to teach. So if these are all aspects of yourself on the card, you'll see that here the man looks to the woman. So your conscious mind finally looked to subconscious mind, who could see the divine. And so, because she's looking up there. So in one sense, Jesus was consumed by carnal love, and it was a lower desire, is very lustful. And he was using his conscious mind to simply put himself through more and more suffering because he was desiring her so deeply. But when he finally realized his true mission here, he was able to look beyond that lower level and see the higher, the divine, right? So I hope that kind of helps to make it make sense for you, because carnal love is of the lower nature. It is of the physical senses and the conscious ego, which is the devil. But divine love or unconditional love comes from source. And that also comes from within you, because it comes from the very core of your being. So like Jesus was trying to describe, once we remove this veil here, so once we remove the conscious ego, the devil, from the whole equation, then you can see the connection between all people and all things. And that's when you can really start to embrace that love divine or unconditional love. But it's all about understanding yourself and what it is that you are desiring and focusing your attention on. So as I stated in Evolution of Consciousness Part 1, I believe that humanity as a whole is right now kind of caught between reasoning man and spiritual man, but we're all striving to be God man, similar to Jesus, the enlightened one. So I think that ending Evolution of Consciousness on this lesson of love divine is really what's going to help us to evolve to that next level of our consciousness. So humanity is trying to figure out this initiation, right? So as a whole, humanity must come to understand the true love divine, because we're still stuck. We're still stuck down here in the conscious ego. We're still fighting each other over the same thing. We all want the same thing. And we all really truly desire the same things. But we have different ways of expressing it here. And so it's like we're still battling between bitterness and love, bitterness and love, bitterness and love. And it's when we can see that once that veil is removed, this conscious ego is removed, then we are all one. And you can't do anything but love everyone at that point, once you understand that from the deepest core of your being. So as we end the Evolution of Consciousness series, it is my hope that we can grow in unconditional love. And it's not something that may happen overnight. For some of us, maybe it will. but it's just to strive to love all of our other fellow humans, all of the other beings of this planet, to love our planet, to love God, and to just strive to understand the connection between the devil and love. Well, that about wraps it up for this video. So if you like this video, be sure to click that like button and share this video with all your friends out there. And of course, if you're a viewer but not yet a subscriber, I would just love for you to click subscribe down below. And once you have subscribed, you can turn on the notifications bell if you would like to be notified each and every time I upload a new video. Thank you guys so much for watching and spending your time with me. I love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.